First contact medical crisis. The SSV Mercy cut through the darkness of space, its white hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. As humanity's first interstellar medical vessel, it represented the pinnacle of Earth's healing arts, a combination of cutting-edge technology and centuries of medical tradition. Dr. Maya Chen stood on the observation deck, watching as they approached the massive alien battleship drifting in the void. The Galactic Federation vessel Indomitable had sent out a distress call that Earth's newly established interstellar communication network had intercepted. Unknown medical emergency, casualties mounting, requesting assistance from any nearby medical vessels. "We're about to make history," said James Reeves, the ship's head combat medic, joining her at the viewport. With his weathered face and steady hands, he treated casualties on every battlefield from Syria to the lunar conflict. First human doctors to treat aliens. Maya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. They might have technology centuries beyond ours, but medicine isn't just about technology. It's about understanding life in all its forms. The comms officer's voice came over the ship-wide system. "Dr. Chen, they've granted docking permission, but their message indicates skepticism about our assistance." "Of course they're skeptical," Maya replied. "To them, we're the medical equivalent of leeches and bloodletting. Let's show them what human doctors can do." The docking procedure completed with a metallic clang that reverberated through the hull. Maya led her team of 12, the best trauma surgeons, epidemiologists, and combat medics Earth had to offer, toward the airlock. Each carried specialized equipment designed for compatible operation with alien tech, though none of them truly knew if it would work. The alien greeting party consisted of 3 beings. The tallest, a reptilian humanoid with iridescent scales and 4 arms, stepped forward. "I am Chief Medical Officer Zex Terrell of the Galactic Federation," it said, its translator converting hisses and clicks into comprehensible English. "While we appreciate your response to our distress call, I must express reservations about your capabilities." Maya met its vertical pupilled gaze. "Dr. Maya Chen, Chief Medical Officer of the SSV Mercy. We're here to help, regardless of your reservations." Zex Terrell's inner eyelids flicked dismissively. "Understandable, but you should know the Galactic Federation has been practicing medicine for millennia, while your species was still using stone tools. Our medical technologies can regenerate entire organs, restructure neural pathways, and manipulate cellular functions at the quantum level." "Then why are your people dying?" James asked bluntly. The alien's scales flushed a deep blue. "Follow me." They were led through corridors of gleaming metal and pulsing light, past aliens of various species in different stages of distress. Some lay on floating medical platforms, attended by robots and medical personnel. Others were sealed in transparent quarantine chambers. Maya's trained eye noted signs of respiratory distress, neurological impairment, and what appeared to be systemic organ failure across multiple species. "The pathogen appeared 3 standard cycles ago," Zex Terrell explained as they entered the main medical bay. "It affects multiple species despite having completely different biologies. Our nanotherapeutic protocols have failed. Quantum cellular restructuring slows the progress but cannot halt it. We've lost 17 crew members already." The medical bay was a marvel of technology that made Earth's most advanced hospitals look primitive. Medical officers worked at holographic displays, showing cellular structures and neural patterns in real time. Robotic surgeons performed operations with microscopic precision. Patients floated in healing fields of energy that theoretically should have been curing anything from trauma to advanced disease. Yet everywhere, patients were suffering. "May I?" Maya gestured toward a nearby patient, a humanoid with blue skin and ridged features. Zex Terrell hesitated, then nodded. "This is Navigator Trell. Stage 2 of the pathogen." Maya approached, opening her medical kit, a simple case containing diagnostic tools that must have seemed laughably primitive to the aliens. She didn't use any of them yet, instead placing her gloved hand on the alien's forehead, checking for temperature variations, looking at skin texture, observing breathing patterns. "What are you doing?" Zex Terrell asked, confusion evident. "Examining my patient," Maya replied simply. She pulled out a stethoscope, a tool virtually unchanged in human medicine for centuries. The alien medical staff exchanged glances that clearly communicated their thoughts. These humans were using ancient tools instead of quantum scanners and neural imaging. "Your molecular scanners tell you everything about the disease at the cellular level," Maya said as she listened to the alien's chest cavity. "But sometimes the pattern only emerges when you step back and look at the whole patient." For the next hour, Maya and her team examined patients throughout the medical bay, using their primitive diagnostic techniques alongside the aliens' advanced technology. They collected samples, made observations, and conferred among themselves in low voices. Finally, Maya approached Zex Terrell, who was supervising a quantum cellular reconstruction. "Your medical systems are focusing on treating each symptom independently," she said. "But this isn't a conventional pathogen. It's adaptive." Zex Terrell's scales rippled with irritation. "We've conducted complete genomic sequencing on the pathogen. It doesn't contain the markers for rapid adaptation." "Not genetic adaptation," Maya clarified. "Behavioral adaptation. It's responding to your treatments by changing its attack vector." She brought up her tablet, showing a series of simple charts tracking the progression of symptoms across different patients. When you treat the respiratory symptoms, neurological symptoms accelerate. When you address those, the pathogen attacks the circulatory system. It's like it's learning. Zex Terrell stared at the crude charts, then at his own sophisticated 3D models. "That's impossible. Pathogens don't possess intelligence." "Not intelligence," James interjected. "Evolution pressure. Every time you apply a specific treatment, you're selecting for variants that can evade it. We've dealt with this on Earth for centuries. Antibiotic resistance, viral mutations. Sometimes the most sophisticated approach makes the problem worse." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Zex Terrell's alien features. "If what you're suggesting is correct, our targeted treatments are actually accelerating the pathogen's evolution." "Exactly," Maya said. "And there's something else. The pattern of spread doesn't match airborne or contact transmission. I think it's using your medical systems as a vector, specifically your automated treatment delivery system." The alien medical officer recoiled in shock. "That's our most advanced technology. It's designed with perfect sterilization protocols." "Which would kill a normal pathogen," Maya agreed. "But this one doesn't act like a normal pathogen. I think it's using your sterilization energy to power its own replication." A long silence fell over the medical bay as the implications sank in. The very systems meant to heal were becoming vectors for disease. "If you're right," Zex Terrell said slowly, "we would need to disable our primary medical systems and rely on manual treatment protocols." "Sometimes the old ways work best," James said with a shrug. "Human medicine evolved because we had to work within limitations. We learned to diagnose without perfect information, to treat without perfect tools." Zex Terrell's inner eyelids closed briefly, a gesture Maya interpreted as deep thought. "What do you propose?" "First, we isolate every patient from your automated systems," Maya said decisively. "Second, we implement broad-spectrum treatments rather than targeted ones, make the environment hostile for all variations of the pathogen simultaneously. Third, we treat patients as whole organisms, not collections of symptoms. Such methods are crude," another alien medical officer objected. "Sometimes crude works," James replied with a half-smile. "When sophistication fails, go back to basics." Zex Terrell looked around at the suffering crew members, then back at the humans with their simple tools and confident expressions. For a species so technologically inferior, they showed remarkable certainty. "Very well, Dr. Chen," the alien medical chief said finally. "We will attempt your primitive approach, but be warned. If more crew members die under your care, you will answer to the Galactic Federation Council." Maya met his gaze steadily. If I'm right, they won't. As the human medical team spread out across the medical bay, beginning the process of disconnecting patients from the automated systems, Zex Terrell watched with a mixture of disdain and desperate hope. These humans, with their physical examinations and basic tools, represented everything the advanced medical traditions of the Federation had moved beyond centuries ago. Yet, as the first patients were transferred to manual life support, and Maya began administering her broad-spectrum treatments, something unexpected happened. For the first time since the outbreak began, the progression of symptoms in several patients began to slow. Zex Terrell's scales shifted to a color the humans couldn't interpret, but which reflected a profound realization. Perhaps there was something to learn from these primitive healers after all. Battlefield innovation. 3 days into the crisis, the medical bay of the Indomitable had been transformed. Gone were the sleek automated systems and quantum healing fields, replaced by equipment hastily adapted from both human and alien technology. Patients now occupy traditional beds rather than floating suspension fields. Medical staff moved between them constantly, checking vital signs and administering treatments manually. It looked chaotic and primitive to the alien medical officers, but the results were undeniable. The death rate had dropped by 60%. Dr. Maya Chen hadn't slept more than 3 hours at a stretch since boarding the alien vessel. She moved from patient to patient, her white coat now stained with various colors of alien bodily fluids, her face showing fatigue, but her eyes remaining sharp and focused. The Draxian crew members are responding well to the adapted antiviral, she reported to Zex Terrell, who had reluctantly embraced the human methods after seeing their effectiveness. But the Meridians are still struggling. Their immune response is overwhelming their circulatory systems. Zex Terrell's scales had shifted to a more subdued hue over the past days, a sign of growing respect. Maya had learned. Our traditional treatments for immune modulation require the quantum stabilizers, which we've disconnected. We need to improvise, Maya said, turning to James Reeves, who was adapting human IV delivery systems to alien physiologies across the room. James, remember that field technique we used during the Amazon pandemic? The low-tech immune modulation. The combat medic looked up, recognition dawning. Controlled hypothermia combined with timed anti-inflammatory pulses. Never tried it on aliens. The Meridian physiology is different, but the principle should hold, Maya said. Their immune response follows a similar cascade pattern to humans. Zex Terrell looked between them, confused. You're suggesting temperature manipulation as an immune modulator, without quantum precision. Sometimes precision isn't what you need, James explained as he began gathering supplies. Sometimes you need adaptability. The human body, and presumably alien bodies too, evolved complex systems that respond to simple inputs. Cold signals the immune system to dial back its response. Another alien medical officer, Vendorel, approached with a data tablet. The pathogen has mutated again. It's developing resistance to our broad-spectrum approach in the Kelvarian patients. Maya wasn't surprised. That's the problem with broad-spectrum treatments. Eventually, resistance develops. We need to rotate our treatment protocols before resistance can establish. Rotation of treatments. Zex Terrell questioned. Our medical traditions emphasize finding the perfect treatment and applying it consistently. In a perfect world that works, Maya said as she helped James prepare the hypothermia treatment for the Meridian patients. But in battle, in epidemics, perfect is the enemy of good enough. We learned that humans survive when we stay flexible, when we change tactics before the enemy can adapt. As they worked, a violent shudder ran through the ship. Alarm signals flashed, and the lights dimmed momentarily before emergency systems engage. We're under attack, Zex Terrell announced, scales flaring bright with alarm. Hostile forces have tracked us, likely attracted by our distress signal. Another impact rocked the vessel, more violent than the first. Medical equipment tumbled from shelves, and several patients were thrown from their beds. Warning klaxons blared throughout the medical bay. Structural breach in adjacent section, reported a voice over the communication system. Emergency containment failing. Maya looked to her team, who were already moving with practiced efficiency. Trauma protocols. Secure all patients. Prepare for casualties. The human medical team had drilled for ship-based emergencies countless times on Earth vessels. Now those skills translated to an alien environment as they rapidly secured patients, medicines, and equipment. A tremendous explosion shook the deck beneath them. The lights failed completely, plunging the medical bay into darkness before red emergency lighting activated. Through a viewport, Maya glimpsed another vessel, sleek, black, and predatory, firing upon the indomitable. Pirates, Zex Terrell explained grimly as emergency systems struggled to compensate. They target damaged Federation vessels, strip them of technology and resources. They're targeting a medical ship, James asked incredulously, helping a fallen Draxian back onto a bed. They target weakness, the alien medical chief replied. And we are currently very weak. The doors to the medical bay burst open, and injured crew members began pouring in, some walking, others carried by comrades. Burns, lacerations, crush injuries, and decompression trauma presented across multiple alien physiologies. Zex Terrell froze momentarily, overwhelmed by the sudden influx of critical patients without the automated systems to triage and treat them. Our protocols. We don't have the equipment to. Triage now, protocols later. Maya interrupted, already directing her team. James, set up a trauma station by the entry. Linda, establish a burn treatment area in the east corner. Zex Terrell, we need your knowledge of alien physiologies. What's immediately fatal versus what can wait. The human doctors moved with a coordination and purpose that momentarily stunned the alien medical staff. Without advanced technology, without species-specific protocols, they began categorizing injuries, establishing treatment priorities, and saving lives with whatever tools were at hand. When the primary power to the medical bay failed completely, James and the human engineers rigged emergency lighting from portable equipment. When sterilization fields went offline, they reverted to chemical antiseptics and meticulous physical cleaning. When medication dispensers failed, they calculated dosages manually and administered injections by hand. Zex Terrell watched in astonishment as Maya performed emergency surgery on a Kelvarian officer with a chest injury, using basic instruments, local anesthetics, and her own hands inside the alien's body cavity. The thoracic membrane is ruptured, Maya called out, her gloved hands steady despite the ship shuddering around them from continuing weapons impacts. I need something to seal it, something flexible but strong that won't dissolve in Kelvarian fluids. Impossible, another alien doctor responded. The only compatible materials require molecular printing, and our systems are offline. What about the emergency hull patches? James suggested from across the room, where he was treating plasma burns on a Meridian engineer. They're designed to adapt to different materials and create temporary seals. Those are for repairing the ship, not for medicine. Zex Terrell objected. Today they're for medicine, Maya replied firmly. Get me one. Now. Minutes later, she was adapting the hull repair material to serve as a thoracic patch, saving the Kelvarian's life with technology never designed for medical use. Hour after hour, the assault continued. The medical bay trembled with each impact, systems failed one by one, and casualties mounted. Yet through it all, the human medical team continued working, adapting, improvising. They fashioned splints from structural materials, repurposed food processing equipment to synthesize basic medications, and used communication devices as makeshift diagnostic tools. When the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, the humans simply tied themselves to fixed points and continued treating patients in near-zero-G conditions. When radiation from damaged systems threatened to expose vulnerable patients, they constructed shielding from available materials based on fundamental physics rather than advanced technology. 18 hours into the battle, exhausted but still functioning, Maya found Zex Terrell staring at her as she finished treating a Draxian with severe neural trauma. You used reflective material from emergency blankets to redirect our remaining medical scanners, the alien observed, creating a functional imaging system from failed components. Battlefield medicine, Maya explained, wiping sweat from her forehead with her sleeve. When you can't get what you need, you make what you have work. Our medical training emphasizes perfect conditions, perfect equipment, perfect procedures, Zex Terrell said quietly. In all my years, I've never seen medicine practiced like this. Perfect medicine is a luxury, James said as he joined them, his uniform stained with various alien fluids. Most of human medical history happened without it. We advanced not because we had perfect tools, but because we learned to work around their absence. A final, massive impact rocked the ship, throwing them all against a bulkhead. Then, unexpectedly, silence fell. The weapons fire had stopped. The communication system crackled to life. Medical Bay, this is the bridge. Federation reinforcements have arrived. The pirate vessels are retreating. Status report. Zex Terrell looked around the chaotic medical bay. Equipment jury-rigged with tape and wire. Improvised surgical tools. Human doctors exhausted but still moving purposefully between patients of species they'd never encountered before this week. Medical bay functioning beyond all reasonable expectations, the alien medical chief reported with a new tone in his voice. Thanks to unconventional methods. As systems gradually came back online and the emergency began to stabilize, Zex Terrell approached Maya, who was finally taking a moment to rest. Your people practiced medicine without our technology, without our protocols, without our knowledge of alien physiologies, the alien said. You treated injuries we considered untreatable under emergency conditions. You performed procedures we would not attempt without perfect equipment. Maya shrugged. Humans have been practicing medicine under terrible conditions for our entire history. Battlefields, disaster zones, resource-limited settings. We learned that waiting for perfect conditions means people die who could have been saved. This adaptability. Zex Terrell's scales shifted to a new color pattern Maya hadn't seen before. It is not primitive at all, is it? It is a different kind of advancement, not in technology, but in approach. Both have their place, Maya said diplomatically. Your technology, when functioning, can do things we can only dream of. But our flexibility might be exactly what you need when technology fails. Around them, human and alien medical personnel were beginning to work together more smoothly, each learning from the other's approach. Human doctors absorbed knowledge of alien physiologies, while alien medical officers observed the improvisational techniques that had saved so many lives. Perhaps, Zex Terrell said thoughtfully, the Galactic Federation has something important to learn from Earth medicine after all. Galactic recognition. The Federation medical vessel, Asclepius, arrived 2 days after the pirate attack, bringing with it a delegation of the highest-ranking medical officials in the Galactic Federation. They materialized in the medical bay of the Indomitable through matter transportation technology, appearing in a shimmering display of light that still made Maya blink in amazement. The leader of the delegation, Supreme Medical Director Thoraxel, was a tall, willowy being with crystalline features that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Flanking him were representatives from 12 different species, each wearing the distinctive silver and blue of the Galactic Medical Council. Chief Medical Officer Zex Terrell. Thoraxel greeted, his voice resonating with harmonics that suggested both authority and age. We received your reports about the pathogen situation and the unorthodox methods employed. The Council found them difficult to believe. Maya stood with her team to one side, freshly showered and in clean uniforms provided by the Federation, but still visibly exhausted from the ongoing crisis. Beside her, James Reeves maintained the stoic expression he'd perfected through years of military service. Zex Terrell's scales had settled into a pattern that Maya had come to recognize as confidence, very different from the dismissive arrogance she'd first encountered. Supreme Director, Zex Terrell replied with a formal gesture, I understand your skepticism, I shared it initially. However, I must report that without the intervention of these human medical practitioners, casualties aboard the Indomitable would be total. I now. Thoraxel's crystalline features shifted slightly as he turned his attention to Maya and her team. Dr. Chen, is it? I understand you abandoned our established medical protocols in favor of manual techniques. We adapted to the situation, Director, Maya replied evenly. The pathogen was using your automated medical systems as a vector. Disconnecting from those systems was necessary for containment. A convenient explanation for resorting to primitive methods, noted another council member, a bulbous entity with multiple sensory organs pulsating across its surface. James stepped forward slightly. With respect, there was nothing convenient about performing manual surgeries during a space battle. We used these methods because they worked when your advanced systems didn't. A tense silence fell over the medical bay. Maya could sense her team shifting nervously behind her. Challenging the Galactic Medical Council might not be diplomatically wise, but James had never been one to prioritize diplomacy over truth. To everyone's surprise, Thoraxel's crystalline features arranged themselves into what might have been a smile. Directness. Another human trait Zex Terrell mentioned in his reports. He gestured around the medical bay. Show me these adaptations you've made. For the next hour, Maya and her team guided the council members through the modified medical bay. They demonstrated how they'd identified the pathogen's unusual transmission vector, how they'd implemented rotating treatment protocols to prevent resistance, and how they'd combined human medical approaches with alien technology to create hybrid solutions. Most fascinating. Thoraxel observed as Maya showed him a neural scanner that James had modified to work without connecting to the main medical network. You sacrificed precision for security. We prioritized stopping transmission over perfect diagnosis, Maya explained. Sometimes being approximately right quickly is better than being exactly right too late. The council members exchanged glances that suggested ongoing debate through some form of nonverbal or telepathic communication. Finally, Thoraxel turned to address the full gathering. The situation has grown beyond this vessel, he announced gravely. Reports indicate the pathogen has appeared on 3 other Federation installations. The Council has implemented full quantum quarantine protocols, but results are inconsistent. Zex Terrell's scales darkened. It's adapting to the quarantine measures. Precisely, Thoraxel confirmed, which suggests Dr. Chen's assessment was correct. This pathogen specifically targets our most advanced medical systems. It's almost like it was designed to do so, Maya said, the implications settling uneasily in her mind. An assessment the Council shares, Thoraxel replied. We now believe this may be an engineered bioweapon specifically designed to target Federation medical technology, perhaps released by the same pirates who attacked this vessel. The revelation sent a chill through the medical bay. A pathogen that specifically exploited the most advanced healing technology in the galaxy was a terrifying concept. The Council has developed a plan to combat this threat, Thoraxel continued. We will deploy our most advanced isolation and eradication protocols across all affected installations simultaneously. Maya exchanged a concerned glance with James. Director, with respect, that approach may exacerbate the problem. If this pathogen truly adapts to Federation medical technology, hitting it with more advanced technology might just accelerate its evolution. What would you suggest instead, Dr. Chen? Thoraxel asked, his tone suggesting he already knew her answer. A return to basics, she said firmly. Disconnect from automated systems. Implement manual treatment protocols. Rotate therapies unpredictably to prevent adaptation. You're suggesting we abandon 10,000 years of medical advancement. One council member protested. Revert to manual medicine across the entire Federation. Not abandon, James clarified. Supplement. Use your technology where it works, but be ready to set it aside when it doesn't. Thoraxel's crystalline features refracted light in patterns that suggested deep consideration. What you propose would require training medical personnel across thousands of worlds in techniques they've never used before. Then let us train them, Maya said. My team can develop a basic protocol that combines the best of both approaches, something that Federation medical personnel can implement quickly. Another council member, a being composed of what appeared to be living metal, spoke for the first time. The scale of what you propose is immense, and there is another problem. Some affected species have physiologies that cannot survive without our advanced life support systems. For them, disconnection means certain death. Maya considered this new challenge. Then we need a third approach, something that allows use of your technology without creating a vector for the pathogen. She turned to James. What about physical isolation? Air-gapped systems. The combat medic nodded slowly. Like we did during the quantum virus outbreak on Mars. Physically separate networks, manual transfer protocols between isolated systems. Impossible, declared the metallic council member. Our medical systems are integrated across all Federation installations, which is exactly why they're vulnerable. Maya countered. One entry point compromises everything. We need compartmentalization, redundancy, the ability to function when systems fail. Thoraxel raised a limb, silencing the debate. There is another factor to consider. Our analysis suggests the pathogen concentrates on specific neural pathways across different species, pathways involved in pain processing and consciousness. To eliminate it completely would require a procedure too dangerous to contemplate. What procedure? Maya asked. Complete neural pathway reconstruction, Zex Terrell explained. Essentially, the temporary suspension of consciousness while neural tissue is purged and regenerated. No patient has ever survived such a procedure without our most advanced systems, which we now know accelerate the pathogen. A heavy silence fell over the medical bay as the implications became clear. The very treatment that could eliminate the pathogen required technology that would strengthen it. Maya looked thoughtful. What if we could perform the neural reconstruction manually? The council members erupted in objections. Impossible. No organic surgeon has the precision. The patient would die instantly. Neural manipulation without quantum guidance is barbaric. Thoraxel silenced them again. Dr. Chen, even our most skilled surgeons would not attempt such a procedure without technological assistance. The precision required exceeds organic capability. Not necessarily, Maya said, her mind racing through possibilities. On Earth, we've developed microsurgery techniques that allow for manipulation at near-cellular levels. Combined with your knowledge of neural pathways and some of your basic scanning technology, kept physically isolated from networks, it might be possible. You're suggesting manual brain surgery at the microscopic level, Zex Terrell stated, scales rippling with disbelief. I'm suggesting we try, Maya replied firmly. If this pathogen spreads further, how many will die because your perfect technology can't adapt to an imperfect threat? James stepped forward. Human medical history is full of procedures that were once considered impossible until someone had no choice but to attempt them. Heart transplants, separation of conjoined twins, brain surgery while patients were awake and talking. Thoraxel studied the humans with an unreadable expression. You would be willing to attempt such a procedure, knowing the risks not only to the patient, but to interstellar relations should you fail. Maya met his gaze steadily. In human medicine, we have a principle. First, do no harm. But sometimes, doing nothing is the greatest harm of all. I believe we can develop a procedure that works, combining the best of human adaptability with Federation knowledge. After what seemed like an eternity, Thoraxel's crystalline features rearranged themselves once more. Very well, Dr. Chen. The Council will provide you with everything you need to develop this manual neural reconstruction. But be warned, the fate of many worlds may rest on your success. In the days that followed, Maya and her team worked ceaselessly alongside Federation medical experts, developing a hybrid procedure unlike anything attempted before in galactic history. They combined human microsurgical techniques with Federation neural mapping, creating instruments that allowed for the precision needed without connecting to vulnerable networks. When the time came for the first procedure, The patient was a Meridian communications officer in the final stages of infection. Without intervention, death was certain within hours. The operating theater had been transformed. Federation scanning technology, physically isolated from all networks, provided three-dimensional mapping of neural pathways. Human surgical tools, enhanced with materials beyond Earth's technology, but operated entirely by hand, allowed Maya to access and treat neural tissue with unprecedented precision. Neural pathway exposed, Maya announced, her voice steady despite the knowledge that observers across the Federation were watching this procedure. Beginning pathogen isolation sequence. For 6 hours, she worked at the very edge of human capability, guided by James and Zex Terrell, who monitored the patient's complex alien physiology. Federation medical personnel watched in astonishment as this primitive human surgeon navigated microscopic neural structures with nothing but enhanced optical assistance and her own trained hands. "It's working," Zex Terrell reported with undisguised amazement as Maya completed the final neural reconnection. "Pathogen load is decreasing. Neural integrity is maintaining. This shouldn't be possible without quantum guidance." When the patient regained consciousness 2 days later, completely free of the pathogen, news spread rapidly throughout the Federation. The procedure was replicated on other critical patients, with human doctors training Federation medical personnel in the hybrid techniques they developed. 1 month after the SSV Mercy had responded to the distress call, Maya and her team stood before the full Galactic Medical Council in the Grand Chamber on Centauri Prime. Thousands of medical practitioners from across the galaxy attended in person or through holographic projection. Supreme Medical Director Thoraxil addressed the assembly. "The threat of the adaptive neural pathogen has been contained. Through the implementation of protocols developed by Earth's medical practitioners, we have prevented what could have been a devastating pandemic across multiple worlds." His crystalline features shifted to what Maya now recognized as an expression of profound respect. In our pursuit of perfect medicine through technology, the Federation had forgotten a fundamental truth that these humans reminded us of. Medicine is not merely the application of technology to biology. It is the adaptive practice of healing in whatever circumstances arise. Zex Terrell stepped forward. His scales now permanently shifted to a pattern denoting wisdom and humility, very different from the arrogant medical officer who had greeted the humans weeks earlier. "I propose," he announced to the assembly, "that Earth be granted immediate membership in the Galactic Medical Council, with Dr. Maya Chen and her team recognized as founding members of a new division, Adaptive Medical Practices." The motion passed unanimously. As the ceremony concluded, Thoraxil approached Maya privately. "Your methods have changed Federation medicine forever, Dr. Chen. We had become so dependent on our technology that we had forgotten how to function without it." Maya smiled. "And your knowledge and technology will transform human medicine. The best approach isn't human or Federation. It's both, working together." Indeed, the crystalline being agreed. "Though I must confess, there are many in the Federation who find it difficult to accept that our most sophisticated medical traditions were surpassed by a species that still uses," he hesitated, as if the word were strange to him, "stethoscopes." James laughed. "Sometimes the oldest tools are the most reliable. They don't need power, they don't get hacked, and they work when everything else fails." As Maya looked out at the assembled medical practitioners of 1,000 worlds, she felt the weight of history. Humanity had joined the galactic community not through military might or technological superiority, but through the oldest human tradition of all, the determination to heal, to adapt, and to face impossible challenges with nothing but skill, knowledge, and unwavering resolve. Earth's doctors had indeed made the galaxy's most advanced battle medics look like first aid students, not because humans were superior, but because they had never forgotten what it meant to be healers when technology failed. And in that moment, the future of medicine across the stars was forever changed.